A wealthy young woman, suffocated by pressure and rigid expectations, steps onto a bridge ready to end it all. It seems her story is over until a voice calls out. Standing before her is a black boy in tattered clothes, carrying a bag of recyclables. He approaches and through their conversation helps her rediscover hope. What's next for these two vastly different lives? Join us to uncover their incredible journey. The sun dipped low over Willow Creek, casting long shadows across its contrasting landscapes. On one side stood towering skyscrapers with gleaming glass, home to the elite. On the other, the crumbling outskirts where streets were narrow, walls cracked, and life was a daily struggle. Here, among the tight alleyways and worn shacks, lived 14-year-old Jaden with his mother, Marie. Jaden, slender and bronzed by the sun, wore patched, faded clothes and well-worn sneakers. Yet his smile could light up the darkest corners of Willow Creek. He carried himself with a resilience that set him apart, even in a neighborhood where hardship was common. Despite the challenges, Jaden's spirit was unyielding, a trait instilled by his mother. Marie, a gentle soul with a wiry frame, bore the weight of years spent scrubbing floors and wiping tables. Life hadn't been kind. Illness left her too weak for heavy labor, but she refused to surrender. She took on small cleaning jobs, earning just enough to scrape by. The bond between mother and son was unbreakable, forged from love, sacrifice, and shared dreams of a brighter future. Their home was a modest shack at the district's edge, pieced together from mismatched planks and a leaky tin roof. Inside, the bare walls held only a few family photos and an old calendar. Furniture was sparse: a rickety table, 2 old chairs, and a cot where Marie often rested. Yet to Jaden it was home. He meticulously kept it clean, arranging their meager possessions with care, valuing what they cherished over what they owned. Each morning Jaden shouldered a large worn sack and set out. He spent his days rummaging through alleys and bins, collecting cans and bottles to sell. On good days he earned enough for fresh bread and perhaps a little fruit for his mother. On bad days he still returned with a smile, his optimism undimmed. One particular evening, Jaden's sack was almost full as he crossed Starlight Bridge, an older relic offering a breathtaking city view. It was his favorite part of the day, a moment to pause and dream, the clinking of bottles in his sack the only sound in the night breeze. His thoughts drifted to the future, saving enough to move his mother to a better home, where the roof didn't leak and walls didn't shudder. A faint sobbing broke his reverie. Jaden straightened, heart quickening, scanning the bridge. A few steps away, near the far end, a figure perched precariously on the railing. It was a young girl no older than 12, her blonde hair catching the dim city glow. She wore an immaculate dress, out of place in the gritty surroundings, but her hunched shoulders and trembling frame told a story of despair. "Hey!" Jaden called out, his voice sharp with urgency. The girl flinched but didn't turn. Jaden dropped his sack, the bottles forgotten, as he approached cautiously. "What are you doing? It's dangerous up there." "Go away," she whispered, her voice breaking. "You don't understand." Jaden stopped a few feet away, his heart pounding. He'd seen desperation before. On neighbors struggling with rent, on his mother's face when she thought he wasn't looking. But this was different. Raw, unfiltered hopelessness. "Maybe I don't understand everything," he admitted, his voice calm and steady. "But I know it's not worth throwing it all away. Whatever's hurting you, it can get better." The girl let out a bitter laugh, tears streaming down her face. "You wouldn't say that if you lived my life. I'm trapped. I can't do anything, I can't be happy." Jaden took another step closer. "You think you're trapped? Look at me." He spread his arms, his voice growing firmer. "I live in a shack, my mom's sick, and I spend my days picking up trash just to buy food. But you know what? I still find reasons to smile. Because I've got her. I've got hope." The girl finally turned, her blue eyes filled with tears. "But you're happy most of the time?" "Yeah," Jaden shrugged. "Not because it's easy, but because I have something worth fighting for. You've got people who care about you, right?" She hesitated, her lips trembling. "My parents, they care, but they don't understand. They just want me to be perfect. I can't live up to what they want." Jaden softened his tone, stepping closer until he was just feet away. "I'm not saying I have all the answers. But maybe instead of trying to be perfect, you should show them who you really are. You might be surprised." For a long moment the girl didn't move. The city's noise faded as they stood on the bridge, the weight of the moment pressing down. Finally, with a shaky breath, she climbed down from the railing and collapsed, sobbing into her hands. Jaden knelt beside her, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. "What's your name?" he asked softly. "Emily," she whispered between sobs. "Well, Emily, my name's Jaden. You're coming with me tonight. My place isn't fancy, but it's safe. Let's figure this out together, okay?" Emily looked up, her tear-stained face showing the faintest glimmer of hope for the first time in what felt like forever. She nodded as Jaden helped her to her feet and picked up his sack. The two began walking back toward the city's edge. The bridge, once a symbol of despair, now marked the beginning of an unexpected journey, one that would change both their lives forever. The walk back to Jaden's neighborhood was quiet, save for the faint clinking of bottles and Emily's occasional sniffle. Jaden glanced at her, unsure what to say. She walked with arms wrapped tightly, her pristine dress smudged with bridge dirt. As they entered Willow Creek's outskirts, the surroundings grew increasingly unfamiliar to Emily. Bright city lights faded, replaced by dim street lamps casting uneven glows over cracked sidewalks. Graffiti adorned abandoned buildings, and the air smelled faintly of damp concrete and smoke. To Jaden it was home, but Emily couldn't hide her discomfort. "This is where you live?" Emily asked, her voice small. "Yeah," Jaden said, offering a reassuring smile. "It's not much, but it's ours." When they reached Jaden's shack, Emily hesitated. The house was a patchwork of old wood and rusted metal, a single window flickering with faint light from inside. Jaden noticed her hesitation and chuckled softly. "It's not a mansion, but it keeps the rain out most of the time." He pushed open the rickety door, stepping aside. "Mom, I'm home." Inside, the space was as modest as the exterior. Bare walls held only old photographs, and the air carried the faint scent of cleaning products. An old mattress lay neatly made in one corner, despite its threadbare sheets. A small table and two mismatched chairs occupied the center. In another corner, a tiny stovetop sat atop a crate with dented pots stacked nearby. From the mattress, Jaden's mother, Marie, stirred. She sat up slowly, her thin frame wrapped in a faded shawl. Her face lit up when she saw Jaden, then quickly turned to concern upon noticing Emily. "Jaden, who's this?" Marie asked, her voice soft but tinged with worry. "This is Emily," Jaden said, setting his sack in the corner. I found her on the bridge. She needed a place to stay tonight." Marie's brow furrowed, but she nodded, her gaze shifting to Emily. "Are you okay, sweetheart?" Emily hesitated. I'm fine," she murmured, her voice betraying exhaustion. Marie smiled gently, gesturing to a chair. "Come sit down. You must be tired." Emily obeyed, sitting gingerly as though afraid the chair might break. Jaden busied himself at the small stovetop, lighting a tiny flame and heating water. "We don't have much," he said over his shoulder, "but we've got tea. Mom always says tea fixes everything." Marie chuckled softly. "That's right. A warm cup of tea and a little kindness can go a long way." As the water heated, Jaden retrieved 3 chipped mugs and set them on the table. He carefully poured the tea, handing one to Emily. She held it with both hands, warmth spreading through her fingers. "This place, it's so different from where I live," Emily said quietly, looking around. "It's small, but it feels warm." Marie's smile faltered for a moment as she glanced at Jaden. "We don't have much, but we make do. What's important is that we have each other." Jaden nodded, taking a sip of his tea. "That's why I keep going. For her. She's the strongest person I know." Marie reached out and squeezed Jaden's hand. "And I'm proud of you every day." Emily watched the exchange, her chest tightening. She thought of her own parents, their love buried under layers of expectations and rules. She couldn't remember the last time they'd simply sat together and talked like this. Emily woke to faint clinking and shuffling. Opening her eyes, she found Jaden already up, sorting recyclables in the corner. Sunlight streaming through the curtain revealed the room's disrepair, peeling paint, a cracked ceiling, patched walls, but also highlighted Jaden's quiet determination. "Good morning," Jaden said when he noticed her stirring. "Hope you slept okay." Emily sat up, stretching. It was different, but not bad. Marie, folding clothes at the table, smiled at her. "Jaden's up early every day. He works hard to make sure we have what we need." Emily's gaze shifted to Jaden. What do you do exactly? Today you'll see, Jaden said with a grin. Come on, let's get moving. After a quick breakfast of bread and tea, Jaden led Emily outside. The morning air was cool, carrying the scent of damp earth. Jaden handed Emily a smaller sack. Here, you'll need this. For what? Emily asked, frowning. You'll see, Jaden said, already heading down the street. Their first stop was a small diner where Marie worked part-time, cleaning tables and mopping floors. The manager, a burly man with a kind smile, greeted Jaden warmly. Back to help your mom, huh? You know it, Mr. Harris, Jaden said, grabbing a mop. Emily watched as Jaden and Marie worked efficiently, wiping tables and scrubbing floors. She hesitated, then picked up a rag and joined them. At first, the work felt strange. Her hands were used to pens, not cleaning supplies. But as she found the rhythm, she discovered it oddly satisfying. After the diner, Jaden led her to a nearby park, where he rummaged through trash bins collecting cans and bottles. Emily hesitated but eventually joined in, her face scrunching up as she pulled out a sticky soda can. Jaden laughed at her expression. It's not glamorous, but it pays. By day's end, Emily's sack was nearly full and her arms were sore. Yet for the first time in years she felt free. No tutors, no schedules, no expectations, just simple work, a few laughs, and the warmth of Jaden's company. That evening, as they returned home, Emily couldn't stop smiling. Her dress was smudged, her hair messy, and her hands dirty, but she felt lighter than she had in years. You worked hard today, Jaden said as they sat down for dinner, a modest meal of rice and beans. Emily nodded. It wasn't what I'm used to, but I think I needed it. Marie smiled at her. Sometimes the simplest things bring the most joy. As they ate, Emily thought about her parents. Did they ever feel joy like this? Or were they too busy worrying about appearances and achievements to notice what truly mattered? As she drifted off to sleep that night, curled up on a makeshift bed Jaden had prepared, Emily felt something she hadn't in a long time. Hope. Little did she know, her parents were closer than she thought, and her time in Jaden's world was about to reach an unexpected crossroads. Across town, the Carters lived their worst nightmare. Emily had been missing for 3 days, and every moment deepened their despair. Their pristine home, usually filled with quiet order, now felt cold and hollow. Flyers with Emily's face were plastered across Willow Creek, and the local news had picked up the story, broadcasting her image with pleas for information. Mrs. Carter spent hours staring at Emily's childhood photos, her once composed demeanor replaced by tear-streaked cheeks and trembling hands. Why didn't we see it, David? She whispered to her husband late one night, clutching a photo of Emily smiling at a birthday party. She was so happy when she was little. Where did we go wrong? Mr. Carter, always the steady one, looked equally broken. We thought we were giving her everything she needed, he murmured, his voice heavy. But maybe we didn't give her enough of what she wanted. Despite their heartache, the Carters pushed forward. Private investigators combed the city, questioning locals, searching for any sign of Emily. Mr. Carter contacted every friend and colleague, while Mrs. Carter personally visited shelters and community centers. But for all their efforts, the trail remained cold. Meanwhile, Emily's days with Jaden settled into a rhythm. Each morning, they'd leave the little shack with sacks in hand, ready to face another day of scavenging and cleaning. Emily, who once dreaded even stepping outside, found herself looking forward to these outings. There was something liberating about the simplicity of their work and the joy Jaden seemed to find in even the smallest victories. Their first stop each day was the diner where Marie worked. Emily had grown fond of the place, with its smell of sizzling bacon and the chatter of regulars who greeted Jaden and Marie like family. She'd help wipe down tables, learning to maneuver the mop and bucket with Jaden's patient guidance. One afternoon as they scrubbed the diner floors, Emily paused, leaning on the mop handle. Do you ever get tired of this? She asked Jaden, her brow furrowed. Jaden shrugged, flashing his usual grin. Of course. But being tired doesn't mean I stop. There's always something worth working for. Emily thought about his words as they walked to the park that afternoon. There, under towering trees, they sifted through bins for recyclables. Emily was no longer squeamish about sticky soda cans or greasy wrappers. Instead, she focused on Jaden's stories. Tales of his childhood, his dreams for the future, and his unwavering hope. You talk about hope like it's a real thing, Emily said one day, watching him examine a crumpled piece of metal. It is real, Jaden replied, tossing the metal into his sack. It's what gets me up every morning. Back at the Carter residence, the growing distance between their world and Emily's was palpable. Mrs. Carter had begun blaming herself openly, replaying every decision. I should have let her go to the park more, she said, her voice cracking during dinner one evening. She always wanted to play outside and I said no because it wasn't productive. Mr. Carter placed his fork down, his appetite gone. We both made mistakes, he admitted. But sitting here blaming ourselves won't bring her back. We need to focus on finding her. Still, the weight of their guilt lingered. Every room in the house reminded them of Emily. Her untouched piano, her books stacked neatly, the framed certificates that once filled them with pride now felt hollow. One evening, as Emily and Jaden returned from a long day, Emily spotted something that made her freeze. A flyer taped to a lamppost. Her own face stared back at her, the word "missing" printed in bold letters. She tore the flyer from the post, staring at it in silence. Jaden, noticing her unease, walked over. That's you, he said softly. Emily nodded, her grip tightening on the flyer. They're looking for me. Jaden studied her face, his usual cheer replaced by quiet concern. What do you want to do? I don't know, Emily whispered, her voice trembling. They'll just put me back in that house, back in that life. I can't go back to that. Jaden hesitated. But they're your family. They love you. Do they? Emily snapped, her frustration bubbling over. Or do they just love the idea of me? The perfect daughter who wins awards and follows all their rules. Jaden sighed, sitting down on the curb. Maybe they don't understand. But how can they if you don't tell them? They deserve a chance to make it right. Emily didn't respond, her mind racing. She wanted to believe her parents could change, but the fear of disappointment held her back. That night, as they sat around the small table in the shack, Emily shared more of her life with Marie. I've always felt like a doll in a display case, she confessed. Perfect hair, perfect clothes, perfect grades. But no one ever asked if I was happy. Marie reached across the table, placing a hand over Emily's. Sometimes people don't see the things right in front of them. It doesn't mean they don't care. It just means they need help to see. Emily glanced at Jaden, who was quietly sorting their day's collection. He had every reason to be bitter, yet he wasn't. If Jaden could find joy in the smallest things, maybe she could find the courage to face her parents. I don't know if I'm ready, Emily admitted. Marie smiled softly. You don't have to be ready for everything at once. Just take the first step. The Carters' search finally bore fruit when a private investigator received a tip about a girl matching Emily's description seen near the diner in Willow Creek. The Carters wasted no time driving to the location that same afternoon. As they approached, Mrs. Carter spotted her daughter through the window. Emily was standing next to Jaden, a mop in hand, laughing as she tried to keep up with his playful banter. The sight was so ordinary, yet it struck Mrs. Carter like a bolt of lightning. That's her, she whispered, tears welling up. That's Emily. They hurried inside, their presence startling Emily. She froze as her parents rushed toward her, their faces a mixture of relief and guilt. Emily! Mrs. Carter cried, pulling her into a tight hug. Thank God you're okay. Emily didn't resist, but her posture was stiff. I'm fine, Mom, she said softly. But we need to talk. The conversation that followed would be the most important of their lives. Emily opened up about everything. The pressure, the loneliness, and how being with Jaden and his mother had shown her what she'd been missing. Her parents listened, their hearts breaking with every word. We didn't know, Mr. Carter said finally, his voice thick with emotion. We thought we were doing what was best for you, but we see now that we were wrong. Mrs. Carter took Emily's hands in hers, her tears falling freely. We'll do better, sweetheart. We promise. The reunion marked a turning point for everyone. The Carters, determined to honor their promise, not only changed their approach to parenting but also extended their gratitude to Jaden and Marie. The next steps in their journey would be slow and deliberate, but the seeds of transformation had been planted. And for the first time in years, Emily felt truly seen. The day after Emily's parents found her, the Carter family sat down in their expansive dining room, a place that had often felt cold and formal, but now bore the weight of something far more important: understanding. Emily sat across from her parents, her hands nervously gripping the edge of the table. Her mother dabbed at her eyes with a tissue, and her father leaned forward, his expression unusually soft. "We've talked a lot since yesterday," Mr. Carter began, his voice low but steady. "Your mother and we realize now that we've made some mistakes." Emily looked up, surprised. She had expected resistance, excuses, even defensiveness. Instead, she saw only regret and a desire to mend what had been broken. Mrs. Carter reached for her daughter's hand. "We thought we were doing what was best for you. But seeing how happy you were with Jaden, even in such difficult circumstances, it made us realize we weren't listening to you, not really." Emily's eyes filled with tears. "I just want to feel like I matter. Not because of what I achieve but because of who I am." Her parents nodded in unison. "We're going to work on that," Mrs. Carter promised. "No more endless lessons or impossible expectations. You deserve to be happy, Emily. We just want to know how to start." Emily hesitated, glancing down at her lap before finally speaking. "I want to help Jaden and his mom. They've done so much for me and I think we could do something for them." Later that day, the Carters invited Jaden and Marie to their home. The invitation had been met with reluctance. Marie, proud and independent, was hesitant to accept what she feared might be pity. But Jaden, ever the optimist, convinced her. "Maybe they really mean it, Mom. And if they want to help, why not let them?" The Carter estate was unlike anything Jaden or Marie had ever seen. The towering gates, the manicured lawn, and the grand staircase in the foyer made their modest shack seem like a different world entirely. Emily ran to greet them as they entered, her smile wide and genuine. "You came," she said, hugging Jaden. "Come on, I want you to meet my parents properly." In the spacious living room, Mr. and Mrs. Carter waited with an air of nervous anticipation. When Jaden and Marie entered, the Carters immediately stood, extending their hands. "Marie," Mr. Carter began, his voice filled with sincerity, "we can't thank you enough for what you've done for Emily. She's told us everything." Mrs. Carter nodded, her eyes misty. "We owe you more than words can say. You gave our daughter something we hadn't, a sense of freedom, of being seen." Marie, unsure how to respond, glanced at Jaden, who gave her an encouraging nod. "We just did what anyone would," she said humbly. "Emily's a wonderful girl. She just needed some space to breathe. And she found that with you," Mr. Carter said. "Which is why we want to help you and Jaden in return. It's the least we can do." Marie stiffened slightly. "We're not looking for charity." "It's not charity," Emily interjected, stepping forward. "It's gratitude. Jaden showed me what it means to live with hope, and I think we can do something to help give that back to him and you." Marie hesitated, but the warmth in Emily's eyes and the genuine remorse in the Carters' faces softened her. "What exactly did you have in mind?" The Carters wasted no time putting their plan into action. They arranged for Jaden to attend a nearby private school, fully covering tuition and providing all necessary supplies. Jaden was overwhelmed at first. The thought of sitting in a classroom instead of scavenging for recyclables felt like a dream. But Emily encouraged him every step of the way. "You're going to love it," she told him as they shopped for school supplies. "And don't worry, I'll be there too." Meanwhile, Mrs. Carter found a position for Marie at one of her boutiques. The job, though still rooted in service, came with a steady salary, benefits, and a far more comfortable environment than the exhausting cleaning jobs Marie had been used to. For the first time in years, Marie felt like she could breathe. The Carters also turned their attention to Jaden and Marie's home. They hired contractors to repair the shack, replacing the leaky roof, patching walls, and furnishing it with simple but sturdy furniture. When the work was finished, Jaden and Marie stood in awe at the transformation. This doesn't even look like our house," Jaden whispered, his eyes wide as he took in the freshly painted walls and clean, comfortable furniture. "It's still yours," Emily said, standing beside him. "It just looks like what you deserve now." Despite the Carters' efforts, there were still moments of hesitation. Marie struggled to accept the kindness without feeling indebted, and Jaden found himself torn between gratitude and guilt. One evening, as Jaden sat on the steps of their newly repaired home, he voiced his concerns to Marie. "Do you think we're taking too much?" he asked, his brow furrowed. "They've already done so much for us." Marie sat beside him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "I thought about that too," she admitted. "But sometimes, Jaden, people need to give as much as we need to receive. Maybe this is their way of healing, just like it's ours." Jaden nodded slowly, letting her words sink in. I guess we're all learning how to do this together. On Jaden's first day at school, Emily met him at the gate. She wore her uniform with newfound confidence, her hair pulled back in a neat ponytail. Jaden, in his crisp new outfit, felt out of place at first, but Emily's reassuring smile steadied him. "You ready for this?" she asked. "Not really," Jaden admitted, chuckling nervously. "But I'll figure it out." "That's the spirit," Emily said, grabbing his arm. "Come on, let's show them what we're made of." As they walked through the gates together, Jaden glanced back at the path that had brought him here. It was a journey filled with struggle, heartbreak, and unexpected kindness. He knew there would be challenges ahead, but for the first time the future felt bright. Back at the Carter house, Mr. and Mrs. Carter stood by the window, watching their daughter and her new friend. "Do you think we're doing enough?" Mrs. Carter asked softly. "We're doing what we can," Mr. Carter replied. "And we'll keep doing it. For them and for ourselves." As the sun climbed higher, Emily and Jaden disappeared into the crowd of students, their laughter carrying on the breeze. It was a new beginning, not just for them but for everyone whose lives had been touched by their unlikely friendship. Join us to share meaningful stories by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell to start your day with profound lessons and heartfelt empathy.